Welcome to Shadow Keepers, the podcast that peers into the darkness about the things lurking just beyond the veil. I'm B.
I'm Lee. From shadow people to the Hat Man and the eerie black-eyed children, we explore the terrifying encounters and theories that keep you awake at night.
Are they watchers, warnings, or something far more sinister?
Keep the lights on, because once you see them, they might just see you too.
Throughout history, urban legends have emerged from the depths of human imagination. But what happens when these legends seem to step into reality? Tonight, we explore the chilling phenomenon of black-eyed children. Are they myth, hoax, or something far more sinister? Reports describe black-eyed children as pale-skinned children, aged 6 to 16, with completely black eyes. No whites, no irises, just inky darkness. These children are often reported approaching people, usually at night, asking for help. They might request to use a phone, a ride, or to come inside a home. Witnesses report an overwhelming sense of dread during these encounters. These children are not ordinary. Their requests are simple, but their presence is anything but. Witnesses often recount a visceral, primal fear that's hard to explain. But where do these black-eyed children come from? A story told in 1996 by Brian Bethel is the first encounter recorded about black-eyed kids. The phenomenon gained popularity when journalist Brian Bethel shared his experience online. He recounted an encounter with two black-eyed children in a parking lot in Abilene, Texas, who tried to gain access to his car. Brian Bethel claims two young boys that looked to be 9 and 13 years old, wearing hooded sweatshirts. They began to knock on his window, begging and pleading for a ride home. The older of the two boys asked if he could give them a ride to their mother's house so they can get money to come back and see a movie, Mortal Kombat. It was then that Brian noticed both the boys' eyes were completely blacked out, no whites in their eyes anywhere. Immediately, he got a very sick and eerie feeling. Brian said the boys kept staring at him with those cold, cold black eyes. My fear must have been easily detected because the older boy of the two that had been doing all the talking started pounding on my window, stating, "We can't come into your car until you invite us in. You have to let us in." I rolled up my window all the way. I put my car in reverse and started to move back, all while the two boys were now yelling, "You must let us in." He looked back into the rearview mirror. The two boys had mysteriously disappeared. Brian knows, without exception, that what he experienced that night was real. Since then, similar accounts have surfaced worldwide. These stories often share common elements: unexplainable fear, insistent requests, and of course, those haunting black eyes. The first known report might have been Brian Bethel's, but these encounters are modern phenomenon or something older. Some believe the black-eyed children are demonic entities, seeking to enter homes or vehicles for nefarious purposes. Others speculate they could be extraterrestrial human hybrids, with their unusual eyes being a result of genetic manipulation. Or could they be spirits of children who met tragic ends, seeking closure or revenge? The viral nature of the stories might contribute to a shared delusion or urban legend. Some skeptics suggest these are elaborate pranks fueled by internet forums and creepypasta culture. Medical conditions like aniridia, a rare condition causing partial or complete lack of an iris, could explain some accounts. Are these encounters supernatural intrusions or the result of human imagination and fear? Movies like Black-Eyed Kids and countless YouTube videos have brought the phenomenon into popular culture. Stories continue to circulate on Reddit and paranormal podcasts, keeping the legend alive. The concept of innocuous children transforming into a harbinger of fear taps into a deep-seated unease about innocence corrupted. The enduring fascination with black eyed children is a testament to humanity's love for the unexplained. But with every chilling tale, the question lingers: is there truth behind the terror? Before 1990, there are no records recounting any sighting of black eyed children.
I mean, I'm not sure. The extraterrestrial kind of makes sense, but like, why do they need to be invited in? So that gives me the demonic part of it. Like,
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, "Oh, that is an interesting theory." Only because, like, even, like, the other day, I was talking to Tony, I saw, like, this, not a documentary, it was, like, a nature thing, and it was showing, I think it was called, like, a cottonhead praying mantis, and it was so beautiful. It was, like, pink and green. The head itself almost looked like a mini dragon's head, and I was like, "And you're telling me that's from this world?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, because it's mimicking its surrounding. Because there's another praying mantis that looks like a folded leaf, like every part
yeah,
of it is a different folded leaf." And he's like, "Yeah, because it's mimicking ours." I said, "Okay, but that could be an alien mimicking our world. You know, people think aliens look like us. So who's to say these aren't alien creatures that also look like our surroundings?" So that makes sense if you think they're extraterrestrial, but the only thing they couldn't change or mimic were their eyes.
yeah. And then just be having to be invited in.
That gives me
That's the
vampire.
weird part. Yeah, that's the weird part. Because even all the stories I do hear of like black-eyed children coming to your door in your house, you
Yes,
have
have
to
to invite
invite them.
in.
Otherwise, and then what do they do when they come in? Do they give you a sickness? Do they give you cancer? What do they do? Do they mark like your house or you for the other side? You know what I mean? Like,
I've heard stories of, like, people who actually did give in and let them in because they are children that they, like, months later found out that they have some type of cancer. If they touch you, you'll get a disease in that spot, and then they're hard to, like, get out of your house. But I always think, like, now that I know about them, if one were to knock on my door, would I let them in? No. But before I knew about them, I don't know because it's a child, and I don't know if I can just let a child be in
yeah,
their
it's a
spot.
child, but once you see their eyes, would that change your
Yeah,
mind and be like,
yeah,
well, no, there's something isn't right here. You know what I mean?
that's
Something's weird.
true. And then I also, because 'cause I'm all like, "Well, I'll call who I need to call for you, like, give me the number." But,
Yeah,
like,
and
if
then
you're not,
remember, demons
they're trickster.
present themselves as children to make you manipulate
Manipulate.
you into feeling sorry for them or talking to them or inviting them or whatever the case is.
Yeah,
So it
I
could
could
be demons.
it could be. And like, the one part where it said, "Are these the spirits of children who met a very traumatic death?"
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, like, it could be kind of both. A demon possessing a child that had a very traumatic death, maybe tricking the child into thinking they might be able to get revenge, like the spirit of them. You know what I mean? Like, if you believe in the like a whole like heaven and hell thing, and if you want more children to go to hell, then so maybe because they're so innocent that their spirits are more, their bodies are probably more easily to be possessed. It makes me think of that show too. What was it called? The one with Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ghost Whisperer, where it ended up in the later seasons finding out that whatever was making the ghost stay where she was, that they were tricking children, spirits, to stay earthbound, and they were turning them evil. And it made me think, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I'm wondering, it could be so many things.
So do you think it's a spirit of children or actual physical beings?
Both. I think it started as a spiritual, no, let me rephrase that. I think it's a shell. I think it's a shell of a real child that its spirit had left and maybe is now inhabited by a demon. Does that make sense?
Yes, but where did it disappear to?
Well, if they died, their soul would move on.
Yeah, but their physical body, like that guy said, when he looked in his rearview mirror, they were
They
gone.
were gone. Well, demons
So
got
is it
powers.
dimensions? Do they jump dimensions like extraterrestrials? Like we're gonna come and then we're gonna leave. You know what I mean? If we don't get invited, kind of testing their boundaries.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I didn't
It's
think
like
that
a
far.
lot of questions.
But even then, even demons, they can go through dimensions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they can.
Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, I think, see, it seems like you're leaning more towards extraterrestrial. I don't know. I can never say that word. You're
ET.
thinking more alien. I'm leaning more towards demon.
See, the reason why I may be leaning more towards alien is because they have a physical form. They are physical bodies, not like a spirit form. So
But a demon doesn't have
them
to be in a spirit form.
but all the stories I hear about demons, they are spirit forms. They're not like a
No.
physical body like me, like I'm a physical body. And I
What
see
about
the black-eyed children as me like a physical body.
what about exorcisms? That's a demon in a physical body.
Yeah, but they leave.
No, no,
You
no.
can
So
exercise them out,
you
and
can
you still
exercise
have
them
your
out,
soul, and you still have your soul.
but that's
So if
not.
this is a shell of a person
Yeah.
being possessed, if I was possessed by a demon, can I jump dimensions and go to a different dimension or hell and back as I please?
But we're talking like if we actually know factual information
Yeah.
about whether or not a demon is a spiritual thing or could it be in a body? Like, because we don't know.
No, all the stories I hear, it seems like they're more of a demonic
Spirit.
spirit, a
Oh,
negative energy,
yeah. Oh, okay. See,
and that has a negative energy.
a lot of stories I hear, they are, what is it, corporeal, where they're in the real world and solid. You know, you hear stories about like the crossroads and a demon approaching and granting you your wish. They're not spiritual. They're not a spirit form. It's an actual person that they describe that to be.
Or is it
I
an
think,
illusion of a person that you can see because you're in your cross roads?
but whose children aren't also illusions that you can see.
Yeah, because every time they come up to the door, let's say, there's nobody else like coming over your house to be able to see these kids. It's the person that opens the door. You know what I mean?
And
It's not
also,
like everybody like it's not like a house full of people that everybody saw them.
not even that. It's not like they're walking into a mall because my thing is
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
Now I've heard like stories where like they've knocked on the door, you know, a husband and wife are there and they both see it. So I'm wondering if the illusion can affect anyone in the home that they're targeting. But
Hmm.
say if I live across the street and I open my door, I look through my window and I see you just talking to nothing,
Yeah.
or will I also then see the illusion?
Exactly. Because we don't know.
Yeah, we
We
don't
don't
know.
know everybody's
That's interesting.
encounters. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. My story comes from Paranormal. The person who holds the account was deleted. It is titled, I've Encountered the Black Eyed Children. Okay. Alt account, but longtime lurker of the sub. An old friend hit me up. I started reminiscing. I remembered this. I believe I encountered the black eyed children over a decade ago in rural Appalachia. This has always low key disturbed me. Keeping in touch to this day, we've never brought it up again. We were at a local state park sort of place at between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. I remember we were parked alongside the woods and some picnic tables. It was pretty desolate. We were technically trespassing, 17 female and 17 male at the time. And what we were doing there, you can leave to your imagination. Y'all were being nasty. That's what you were doing. As our curfews were approaching and we were finishing up our first time together. I wasn't expecting to read that. Hold on a second. Are we good? As our curfews were approaching and we were finishing up our first time together, we experienced a very ominous feeling. He was in the driver's seat preparing to start the car and pull off. The car doesn't start. We sort of laughed it off as it wasn't the first time and talked. Suddenly, to the right, passenger side where I was sitting, we see faint lights coming out of the woods. The ominous feeling intensified. Merging from the woods, there were 4 to 5 children younger than us, like appearing to be 7 to 11 years old. I'm not going to claim they had black eyes. It was dark. And I don't remember, as I was pretty shook. I didn't read about black eyed children lore phenomenon until years later, which described everything else that we experienced. All I can say is they were not normal. They didn't belong. The cabins at the park were not occupied. They weren't even getting rented out as it was autumn, winter. We were miles from the park's hotel. There were no adults. They were absolutely out of place. What were the lights? I don't know. But the closest thing I can compare them to are glow sticks, as if they had opened a package of these novelty glow sticks that included bracelets, necklace, and wands, but it wasn't like they were having fun or goofing off. They just stopped, stood there, and stared at us. We tried asking what they were doing here, if they were lost, where are their parents? No response. The oldest looking male child, a bit heavy set with a gray hoodie on, approached the vehicle just in front where the passenger headlight corner would be. My friend started really freaking out at this moment. He locked the doors and was like, hell no, we gotta go. Eventually, the car started. The children don't move and the kids stay put in front of the car. My friend eventually yells to the kid, I'm going to run you over. The boy slowly backs away, raises arms, and points at us as we were leaving. I didn't look back. I am absolutely not making this up. To my recollection, this is a true story. Why do black eyed children always got a hoodie on?
Yeah, I don't know. They don't want you to see their face.
I'm not opening my door for anybody that got a hoodie on. That's too sus for me. Or
Unless they're in the mountains and it's cold, so they're dressed for the
it is. She did say it was autumn/winter.
yeah.
But what's wild is how a lot of stuff happens in the Appalachian Mountains.
Mhm.
Because I think there was something that we were talking about a few episodes ago, and it brought up the Appalachian Mountains as well. And it's like, what is it about there that it attracts the supernatural and the paranormal? And it
I mean,
spans so many states.
what states is it in?
Oh, the Appalachian Mountains are in Pennsylvania, I think West Virginia, and parts of New York. It's not Midwest. It's like what connects the East Coast to almost the Midwest. But but the Appalachian, I think the longest stretch of the Appalachian Mountains is in Pennsylvania, because it even talks about, like, I think when you mentioned something about the Jersey Devil,
Mhm.
it talks about the Appalachian Mountains. Oh, wow. The Appalachian Mountains crosses 13 states. Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and all of West Virginia. I knew parts of the Appalachian Mountains were here because Tony did go camping near the Appalachian Mountains.
It says here that it's considered haunted due to rich history of folklore and legends developed from the isolation and harsh conditions of early mountain life, with stories of witches, spirits, and cryptids passed down through generations, coupled with ancient age of the mountain range itself.
I wonder too if the Appalachian also was, if I think back on like history, if a lot of tribes,
It says a Cherokee.
yeah, like if a lot of tribes were homed in these specific states and areas and were removed from their home and forced out, that energy that was left
That
behind for
energy, and
hundreds of
then
years.
and then when you pass away, you kinda go back to your home because you weren't finished living there, or you have unfinished business there, you know what I mean? So that could also contribute to it. Shadow people are mysterious, dark, human-like figures often seen in peripheral vision and associated with feelings of dread or unease. Reports of these entities vary. Some describe them as fleeting shadows, while others claim to see detailed figures with glowing eyes. Theories about their origins range from paranormal explanations, which is ghosts, demons, or interdimensional beings, to physical, to psychological and scientific causes, sleep paralysis, hallucinations, or tricks of the light and shadow. The paranormal investigator, Heidi Hollis, popularized the term and the modern beliefs of shadow people on the radio show Coast to Coast AM. So I have a Reddit story about 3 encounters with shadow people from you, Sniggity. During the late 1960s, I saw shadow people 3 times. At that time period, I didn't know what they were called. The first time, one was looking through my bedroom window staring at me. The second time, a few months later, about 5 of them I saw when I woke up. The third time I saw them was late at night at camp in my bungalow. They were walking around the camp bungalow bed I was in. Most of the shadow things were tall and were totally silent. They were humanoid in shape. They all had white eyes. all white and not red, as some recent reports explain. They were all pitch black, blacker than my dimly lit room, bedroom, or camp room. All three times while seeing them, was too scared to move a muscle, so I don't actually know if had sleep paralysis or not. I will happy not ever to see any shadow people again. Are shadow figures, lost spirits, interdimensional visitors, or something far more sinister? One theory suggests that shadow people are a type of spirit or ghost. Some believe they could be the souls of those who met a tragic or violent end, leaving them tethered to this world in the form of a shadow. Others speculate that their shadowy appearance might be tied to lingering in a past moment, existing as an imprint of history, quite literally, a shadow of the past. It's also possible that spirits can take on different forms, and a shadow is simply one of the many ways they manifest. Another theory suggests that shadow people may actually be astral projections. Astral projections occurs when a person's consciousness separates from their physical body, either intentionally or unknowingly, to explore different realms. This often happens during sleep, where a person may experience what feels like an incredibly vivid dream and suddenly wake up with a jolt as their consciousness returns to their body. While some people practice and control astral projection, others may do it without realizing it. According to this theory, shadow figures could be glimpses of individuals in their astral form, appearing momentarily as they move through different planes of existence. Some believe these beings might even be interdimensional travelers, coming from parallel worlds or shifting between dimensions. When we encounter a shadow person, we could be unknowingly witnessing someone navigating between realities, catching only a brief glimpse before they fade away. Some believe that shadow people could actually be demons or other malevolent entities taking on a shadowy form. This theory stems from the intense fear or unease that many people report feeling during encounters with these beings. It is particularly considered in cases involving figures like the Hat Man, who is associated with dread. Some speculate that these entities may feed off the fear they instill, using it as a source of energy. The fear people experience may not be caused by the entity itself, but rather by the shock and confusion of witnessing something paranormal. The sudden appearance of an unexplained figure can naturally trigger fear, even if the being isn't inherently malevolent. One of the more creative theories is that shadow beings are manifested thought forms, or tulpas. A tulpa is a materialized being or thought form, typically in human form, that is created through spiritual practice and intense concentration, meaning that they are either collections of negative energy from areas where traumatic events have taken place and evil people frequent, or have been intentionally created for some nefarious purpose. The negative energy begins to manifest and takes on form and motive, thriving on fear and negative emotions for sustenance. Astral vampires. In Native American Cherokee mythology, there is an evil witch known as the Raven Mocker that takes the form of a spectral bird and shifts into a humanoid, shadow-like phantom. These beings are said to steal the souls of the ill or dying. Such creatures are alleged to fear the shaman or medicine man, and so do not enter a home where one resides. A medicine man was sought to watch over the infirm and also watch over the bodies of the recently deceased, as according to myth, once the body was buried, the raven mocker could not steal the soul. Another possibility is that shadow people may actually be guardians sent to protect us or warn us of impending danger or misfortune. Some people have reported encounters that felt more like a warning than a threat. In some cases, these beings could simply be spirits or ghosts trying to communicate, as it is often believed that spirits have knowledge beyond our own and may attempt to send messages to the living. The brain can sometimes misinterpret questionable shapes in low light conditions and cause visual illusions, especially in peripheral vision, causing people to perceive shadowy figures where none exist. Stress and anxiety can heighten emotional states and trigger misperceptions, leading individuals to interpret normal shadows as threatening figures. Environmental factors can cause flickering lights, uneven shadows, and reflections that contribute to perception of shadow people. Sleep paralysis disorder can cause hallucinations of shadowy figures during the transition between sleep and wakefulness. If shadow people are just a trick of the mind, why do so many people describe seeing the same thing? The most common description of shadow people is that they are ethereal black creatures devoid of distinguishable features or expressions, frequently characterized as having a masculine form. this isn't always the case. These beings typically move quickly, practically gliding through rooms, often with a strong sense of dread or anxiety. In contrast to ghosts, who are frequently associated with specific locations or historical events, shadow people appear to be unrestricted by any one area or time period. There are many types of shadow people. The Hat Man is one of the most commonly reported. Witnesses describe him as faceless, dark man in an overcoat and a wide-brimmed hat who watches silently from doorways. There aren't many accounts of malevolent behavior or attacks attributed to this type of shadow person, but the Hat Man has been reported to induce feelings of apprehension or the knowledge that you may not have seen the last of him. Some people believe Hat Man is actually more akin to the devil or a demon and is seeking to increase its numbers by recruiting an army of people to the dark side. The aggressive shadow person. Shadow people may have plenty of ways to terrorize you without becoming violent, but some of them have no problem with causing physical harm. People have reported being beaten, choked, and even picked up and dropped by aggressive shadow beings in their homes. These beings usually don't look much different from normal shadow people, featureless, human-shaped entities, but they harbor some serious ill will. Fortunately, they're also the easiest to scientifically explain, since shadow figures and choking sensations are some of the textbook symptoms of sleep paralysis. The red-eyed specters. Most shadow people are described as faceless black silhouettes, but if you run into a red-eyed shadow person, you may be in trouble. While they generally don't harm humans physically, red-eyed shadow people are about as menacing as they come. Their only discernible features are the glowing red orbs that peer out from their pitch black faces. According to people who claim to have encountered red-eyed shadow people, their gaze causes terror, and the more terrified the victim becomes, the stronger the shadow person will grow. The hooded shadow figure. This type of shadow person is featureless except for his hooded cloak. Like the Hat Man, this creature isn't known to attack humans directly. It prefers to stand at doors or bedsides and stare silently. However, while the Hat Man is usually described as more curious than malicious, cloaked or hooded shadow people almost certainly aren't paying friendly visits. Descriptions of hooded shadow people usually include the same sinister detail, an undeniable sensation of seething hatred. The Watchman shadow figure. These types of shadow people aren't as malevolent as some other kinds, but it's still no fun to feel like you're being watched. They watch humans and they don't care if you like it or not. This shadow person isn't particularly imposing. It won't attack you, but according to witnesses, there's just something deeply creepy about the way it lurks around. Misty black shadow people. Not all shadow people actually look like people. Even regular humanoid shadow beings are reported to move in ways that are too quick and fluid to be natural. But the misty shadow people appear as clouds of black smoke. Despite their weird forms, they give off unmistakable impression that they are intelligent. According to some accounts, these black shadowy masses are attracted to people or places that give off negative emotions. Elusive shadow people. Though most types of shadow people are known to stare constantly, there's one type that prefers to snoop unnoticed. The elusive shadow people prefer to peek around corners and blend in with the shadows. If noticed, they will disappear immediately. Like the malevolent shadow people who make their observations more obvious, these elusive shadows don't incite any negative feelings, but some people believe that they serve as scouts for more malicious entities. Others, though, feel that they are just playful and curious. Rambling shadow people. These shadow entities, unlike most unworldly beings, aren't interested in observing, following, or interacting with humans. In fact, rambling shadow people don't care much about us at all. They're usually described as walking straight from one place to another, sometimes even through walls, as though they have somewhere to be or something to do. Whether their business is nefarious or not, they're more preoccupied with getting it done than spying on us. Forest shadow people. While most shadow people appear indoors, some accounts describe encountering shadow people in forests. These black figures, like their counterparts, watch silently from the shadows without so much as breaking a twig. Forest-dwelling shadow people also have a tendency to mimic the people they encounter, stopping at the same time, for example. Some claim that these shadow people are actually guardians of the forest that they inhabit, while others speculate that they're the ghosts of people who got lost among the trees. Whatever their origins, they're generally perfectly happy to follow and watch without causing harm.
I didn't know that shadow people had red eyes. Every time I heard a story, or not, I think I'm getting shadow people and the Hat Man confused because the Hat Man doesn't have red eyes that I know of. Like all the stories, it's almost like he has no face.
Hmm.
If you get close enough and you see his eyes, it's like black or an empty void or like a like gray mist. Raven mockers, I don't know why that was throwing me because it sounded so familiar to me. And I'm like, why do
It
I
does
know
sound. It does sound familiar.
familiar? I read a book series years ago because it's a young adult series. I read it maybe 20 years ago. And one of the villains in it was a raven mocker, which was a large humanoid person. It had the body from the neck down of a person, but it had black, like large angel wings and the head of a raven. And they were basically soldiers of evil. Like whatever a demon wanted or a powerful witch, whatever they wanted done, they were like their soldiers in that book. And one ended up being turned to the good side, which started to make it look even more human and less creature.
Yeah.
And that was the House of Night series. I don't know if you read that.
No.
But it seems like their shadow people seem to be more associated with like sleep
I
almost
think
because it was
people count.
talking,
You can encounter it more, I guess, during sleep paralysis.
yeah, like sleep paralysis, and they were saying astral projection. So it was giving me more like that's something that you see or encounter more while you're sleeping or in the in between. Where it's, I know the Hat Man, he's associated, and I put it in my notes too here. Is the Hat Man a paranormal leader? Because though in my research, I didn't find anything about the Hat Man being associated with black eyed children. I know in a lot of stories that people have encountered the black eyed children and who you see almost in the distance. It's usually under like a lamp post or at a stop sign is the Hat Man basically telling the black eyed children like who to go after or when he calls them back when they don't get what they want. So it's almost like if he's their leader, but he's also associated with these shadow people. And I'm wondering if he's associated with them in that way, in almost the same way that he is with the black eyed children, where it's more like he's a leader aspect,
That's what I see him as. I see him as like the main guy, and then everybody else is underneath of him, whether
like a
they're
soldier.
yeah, like whether they're giving him updates or spying for him or whatever they're doing, even terrorizing people. I
Yes.
feel like they're doing it for him. For some reason, he gives me the leader vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
I think it's more because he stands back.
mhm,
Even with what you were saying and a lot of things that I've heard, he kind of stays in the background
yeah,
watching.
mhm,
Like I know where it says like in mine, I was like, well, are they watchers? He seems like someone who just watches and doesn't get involved.
mhm,
Or once he does get involved, you probably don't even know what happened because what's the next step after you encountered and you didn't walk away?
yeah.
You know what I mean? If you let the children into your car, what happens next?
That's
Where
what I
do
was wondering. Like, what happens if you allow them to come to your house? What happens?
Yeah. Well, I know they say, yeah, it's like you get bad luck in any type of way, financially, physically, emotionally. It's downhill from there. As they say, you can go downhill if you let them into your house, into your car, if you help them in any way. Because I was like, I wouldn't let them in my house, but hey, you want to use my phone? Give me the number and I'll call for you. But you're not even supposed to even to go that far. You're not supposed to. I know some even say you're not even supposed to acknowledge it. Like you see them, you turn your light out and you go back right back to bed. I know a lot of people who wouldn't be able to do that if they saw children at their door. But that's
Yeah,
why I'm wondering too, like that's why maybe the Hat Man uses children to come to your door or to your car. Because you're not going to open your car or your house to a grown man
yeah.
dressed like that. But you see the innocence of children and you're like, oh my
That's
God.
and that's why demons use children.
Yeah.
You hear them as children, like a
Yeah.
baby crying or something like
Yeah.
that. So you are enticed to go to that, spot.
It almost gives me like Hat Man is like the invisible man with just a trench coat and a hat. Like he's just
Mhm.
black mist underneath his clothing.
Yeah.
But it's more, yeah, like he needs you to let your guard down by putting these other things in your face. And then once you do is when he comes. But then what happens? Because I've never encountered any of those things, but I do believe they're real. But also, are those like an echo? Because I could see like a hat man kind of being like a an echo of dimensions, like somebody watching who can go through all of them and he's just an
Yeah.
echo sort of. I don't know how to explain it, but I find the Hat Man more scary because it just seems like shadow people, it just seems like yeah, they more affect you or they more show up when you're sleeping. And since I don't sleep, and then the one you mentioned, the hooded shadow person, where they
Mhm.
had like no face or anything, that that sounded like it was like the because and they watch, that sounded like the Grim Reaper. Where like they're
Yeah,
just
except he doesn't have his little that's called sai.
yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have that. He just has a hood.
Yeah, because that's what you said, he just watches and he just stands in the corner or beside and he's it sounds like they're waiting. It sounds like he's like waiting for you to death and lure you to the next dimension or wherever you go next. So I was like, oh, with the hood and the cloak and everything, I was like, that sounds like the Grim Reaper to me.
So I have a Reddit story about Hat Man from Purple Supernova. It's called "Has anyone else had encounters with the Hat Man?" So as long as I can remember, I've seen an abnormally tall, thin shadow person wearing a top hat. I've seen him inside my house, outside, at school, and even at other people's houses. Sightings include seeing him briefly peeping out from behind trees or buildings outside in broad daylight. And a couple of times while using the restroom at school, I've only seen his feet standing outside the closed stall door. Even in the light, he has no features, just pure darkness, like a black paper cut out into the shape of a person. I mostly see him inside, though. He sometimes stands behind my bedroom door and sometimes paces up and down the hallway by night. Several times while passing a mirror or other reflective surface, I can just barely catch a glimpse of him following closely behind me in my reflection. But when I spin around, no one is there. This isn't an everyday thing, just often enough that I can't discount it as something in my eye or catching something completely normal in my peripheral vision. And another thing is, I'm not the least bit frightened of him. He doesn't have a threatening aura at all. It's more of a sense of curiosity, maybe. I've read up on some of the phenomenon of others seeing the Hat Man, and many describe a dreadful feeling when they see him. I've never felt that, not even as a child. I was just wondering how widespread encounters are with this entity or whatever it is. I've decided to list some of the instances where I've seen him. This is by no means a complete list, just a few that I can remember off the top of my head. I clearly remember him standing against the wall behind the door in my bedroom at night. From the time I was still in a toddler bed, he would just watch me, and sometimes he would walk out the door, up the hallway, and be gone. Other times, I would fall asleep while he was still standing there. I saw him outside many times as a child. I recall playing with my dog, throwing a ball towards the woods that lined our backyard. And as I watched my dog run for the ball, I would see him standing at the very edge of the trees. Another instance, I was playing in my wading pool with a friend, about 5 or 6 years in age, and just saw his upper body poking around the side of my house, watching me. I saw him at my elementary school while on the swing set during recess. Again, just his upper body peering around the side of the tree. Twice I remember using the restroom at school and just seeing his feet underneath the stall door, as if it was someone waiting for me to finish. I never heard anyone come in, and he wasn't there when I opened the door. Another time I was passing the gym and glanced in, and he was standing there in the middle of the empty gym, watching me pass by. I saw him at my friend's house standing in her doorway, watching us play with dolls. Once I came out of the bathroom at my grandmother's house and he was standing at the end of the hall. I see him in mirrors a lot too. I've been laying in my bed reading a book and see him walk by the open bedroom door. And a few times I've come out of the bedroom and seen him standing in my daughter's room across the hall. I specifically remember one time when I thought my daughter saw him too, but she was too young to talk. I had her in the bathtub and had half turned to reach for the baby shampoo behind me. I saw him out of the corner of my eye. When I fully turned to face him, he slowly backed out of the room without making a sound and almost as if he was gliding, not walking. This was in the middle of the day under a bright bathroom light, my daughter's eyes following him as well. There are many more occurrences, but this list is so long enough. He's not scary at all, and he's never tried to interact with me or touch me. This is not sleep paralysis. I was fully awake and engaged with other people during some of these instances.
Weird. And it followed this person through their whole life. I've never heard of that where the Hat Man would follow someone through their whole life. They said as a child, and then now they're older and parenting other children. Like, is it Hat Man or is it a guardian that they're seeing or a family member that's just dressed that way?
Yeah, it gives me like a guardian vibe, like a maybe grandfather or great grandfather type that is just watching this kid grow since a baby. And, now is watching over her child as well. Like that's especially if she didn't get any like, ill vibes from him or any
Yeah.
dread or fear.
I don't want to say to allow this presence to follow you because, they probably don't know what to do, but to have seen it for so long and over so many different stages of your life, like it's not bound to a specific home. It's not like she's in the same home that she probably grew up in. She's seen it at school. She's seen it in bathrooms. Like that's creepy. But I don't know if I'd want something like that following me all the way all around. Like if it's the Hat Man, why don't you feel something bad coming from it? Is it prepping you for something? Are you going to be its next victim? And then I also had this question. Do you think, and I don't know why, I think of the Hat Man as a singular being. There's only one.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But is there more than one Hat Man?
I don't know if there's more than one, but I do feel like it's just one that watches
Yeah.
everybody.
Because you don't hear them saying like, "I saw a bunch of hat men." Now,
No.
that sounds like hot men. Hat men. You know what I mean? It's
You
always the
see
Hat Man.
you see the Hat Man and then other shadows behind him.
Yeah, like he's
Mhm.
singular. When they were saying, "It's been following me through all these stages of my life," and I'm thinking like, "Well, then is there more than one? Because if it's following you, how is it also doing all these other things that other people could see?"
Well, she says she doesn't see it every day, but those are the moments that she does remember.
I don't think of him as someone who is overly tall and giant. I think of him more of an average person's height, maybe no bigger than like 6 feet tall, of a grown man. They say it was really tall, but also when she first described it, it was from the point of view of a child. So it could be it was tall to them at that time.
Well, this person says abnormally tall, thin shadow person wearing a top hat. Not necessarily a
Like a trench.
overcoat, the trench
Yeah.
coat with it.
So it could be a being with a hat, but not necessarily the Hat Man.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the Hat Man, so it could just be like a family member that has passed,
Yeah.
that is just maybe a guardian angel.
Okay. I could see that. Because I was just so fascinated, but like this thing has been following you your whole life, and we're
Yeah.
just and,
Like a
and
male
you and you think it's the Hat Man, and you're not
because of the
really.
hat. Yeah, it's because of the hat. So it could have just been like a male guardian angel or,
But that's what I'm saying. If I saw this thing and I think it's the Hat Man, I have to do some research to get rid of you because there's no story, or I've never heard of a story of the Hat Man being anything positive.
yeah, I haven't either. And since this person's been seeing it as a toddler,
Mhm.
this person's just used to that shadow
Not
being
even
around her.
they walked into gym class and it was there. They go to
Mhm,
the school bathroom and it's standing outside the stall.
mhm.
It's
At
giving me
recess.
it's giving me stalker. It's giving me the spirit might be in love with you. I'm not sure. It's chose you for something.
That's why I say guardian angel.
It's giving me more than guardian angel though, because I could see it showing up in times of need or in danger or of heartbreak, and it's just letting you know it's a presence that's there. But for it to be standing outside the bathroom stall or outside your bedroom door and you see the feet underneath, that gives me more of a stalker spirit than a guardian spirit.
What's that soul called that's like connected to you and you're looking for that your soulmate?
Your soulmate?
Maybe it was like a past soulmate that it just never materialized in the physical world. And
Maybe.
it's just connected to you, so it's been with you since you were
It
born.
wasn't reincarnated like you were. So it's
Exactly.
just
So,
waiting.
yeah, it's just waiting for you. That's why it gives you that stalker, it's in love with you vibe.
Yeah, I can see that. Or it hasn't been born yet, because even like your soulmate doesn't need to be romantic, you know? They were just saying how they had one child who's to say it's waiting to be born, whether it's a romantic soulmate or mother and child soulmate, like who's to say if she were to get pregnant again and it be a boy that all of a sudden this entity just goes away. And then if it goes away, is it because it's being reincarnated inside of her? I don't know if I'd worry. What would it mean if it went away?
Yeah.
Does it mean it finally is reborn? Does it mean it just moved on?
Maybe she's psychically open and in tune than most people. That's why.
I could see that if it was more than just him though.
Yeah.
And she mentions that her daughter sees it too, but
She thinks it saw it because she followed it with her eyes.
they don't talk about their spouse.
I mean, could be a single mother. You don't know.
That's true. Okay, it's that time. The cards are on the table, the veil is thin, and the shadows are shifting. It's time to peer into the unknown. What messages lie hidden in the cards, warnings, revelations, or something else entirely?
1 second. I just went on mute and I didn't touch nothing.
I think that happened to me. Remember that happened to me last week?
Yeah, because we were talking and then suddenly I look down and it's on mute. And I'm
I
like, I did I put that on? How long have I been on mute?
only for a couple of seconds. I felt the void of the mute, but I thought you did it.
No, I didn't. I was sitting just like this. And then I looked down and I seen it.
I can't rewatch it, but I thought I saw you turn it on. So I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe something's going on in the
No.
background." But I know that happened to me like last week, the last episode, or the week before. When I start to edit, I'll find out. But it was weird because I was muted, and I'm like, "How
Yeah,
did I
I
get
remember
muted?"
we were talking about either doppelgangers or sleep paralysis. It was early on.
No, because I've already edited those, and that didn't happen.
No, but then you were like, "Wait, something freaky just happened." I was just on mute. And how long have I been on mute?
That's right.
And it was during one of the episodes.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those old episodes.
I didn't touch it. That's all
Okay,
I know.
keep your hands to yourself.
I am.
All right, let me get
Something else needs to keep its hands to itself.
let me get these cards ready. This week's card is the Five of Pentacles upright. Means financial loss, poverty, lack mindset, isolation, worry.
It's a lot of bad things. I'll go with isolation and worry
Wait a
over
minute.
everything else.
The Five of Pentacles is a card of financial loss and poverty. You have hit hard times, especially when it comes to your work, career, finances, and mental possessions. You may have recently lost your job, your home, or your financial security. You no longer feel safe because it has all been stripped away from you in one blow. Your ego may also be bruised, especially since success often correlates to financial wealth. Losing either can be a humbling blow to your self esteem and sense of self worth. The upside is that this is a minor arcana card with temporary effects, rather than a major arcana card which has a longer term impact. This too shall pass. In this time of need, the Five of Pentacles indicates that you feel isolated and alone, just like the two people in the card. You feel as if you have been left in the cold. You may wonder, why is no one coming to help me? It may appear as if no one cares anymore. That was deep. And
That was I don't feel like that though.
I don't feel like that
I hope
either.
I don't feel like that next week.
I can see how a lot of people at this time can feel like that in our climate of where we're at in the world, here in the US.
You mean the season?
No, I mean in life.
I mean, it says something about success can bring on feelings of isolation and stuff. Listen, if I hit the lottery and
No, I
I
think it
lose
said
people,
the lack of success.
The lack or success itself?
The lack of success, because why would you be successful if you are at a
I'm
financial
thinking
loss?
you become successful, people get jealous and start leaving you. You lose friendships and family because of jealousy and envy.
No, it says, like, basically, your ego will also get a hit
Mm.
because people correlate success with wealth. And if
Okay.
you're at a financial loss, you're not successful.
Oh, okay.
You,
Okay.
you will internalize that as not being successful.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks for stepping into the shadows with us. If you've had an encounter with shadow people, the Hat Man, or black eyed children, we want to hear your story. Reach out to us on social media or email. We're always listening.
And don't forget to follow Shadow Keepers on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a review, share with a friend, and help us shed light on the darkness.
The more we learn, the more we uncover, and sometimes the more they notice us.
In the world of Shadow Keepers, nothing is ever what it seems. Stay vigilant, stay awake, stay aware of the shadows that follow, because not all shadows are harmless. Bye.
Bye. Every time I said black eyed children, I wanted to say black eyed peas.
Yeah.